Oh, hello there. Yes, well, grief. It is indeed Saturday. Hooray. Yes, makes me think of all those gorgeous things we can all do on Saturday, like, cleaning things a bit. That'd be great. Do the ironing. Excellent. Yeah. Anyway, today I thought, because yesterday was such a bumper day, especially in the commentary section of the Daily Telegraph, that I thought I'd just generically slag off right-wing commentators. Just across the board, basically, for the absolute mind-boggling tosh that they now appear to be allowed to come out with because we are several months into a Labour government. Anyway, first and foremost is the death of Sarah Sharif, which has generated an awful lot of what we used to call column inches, all around the same thing, whereby isn't it really dreadful that all those people like teachers were way too worried about cultural sensitivities to say anything about it. So number one on my list of people to slag off is Alison Pearson. You may remember her. Yeah, she was hounded, dreadful hounded, witch hunt hounded, cancelled, hounded, woke mob, because some coppers visited her because of something particularly nasty that she'd written. Yes, that Alison Pearson. Yes, her. Yes. Anyway, knows all about cultural sensitivities, does Alison. Anyway, she managed to get this. Liberals would rather risk the death of a child like Sarah Sharif than appear racist. To prevent further such stories like hers, we must make it clear that the price of living in our country is abiding by our values. Yes, indeed. Now, I do have a huge number of problems with that. Number one of which is what happens exactly with those kids that die who are white. What exactly went wrong there? Was that cultural sensitivities or not? Well, the answer is not, obviously. That's just one of those things that happens, and in many ways it is. Per head of population, child murders by parents have remained static since the 1970s. Doesn't appear to be a lot that we can do about it, but certainly our life isn't made a lot easier, Alison, by political commentators who constantly say that I should be better at my job with fewer resources year in, year out, year in, year out, year in, year out, year in, year out. Because if you actually look at this story, well, what you actually find, actually, rather than Conservative MPs saying, oh, isn't it really dreadful that all those people didn't act properly like the teachers? Well, what you actually find is that the one key group of people that were involved in her that kept raising concerns about her were indeed her teachers. Still, that doesn't fit a narrative, does it? No. After all, I must be a bad person simply because I exist. Yes. Next up, David Frost. Oh, he's cool, isn't he? Yes, because he knows all about the Labour Party and how nefarious they are, and he had this one. If you want civil servants to act like the private sector, put them in it. A start-up culture won't work in government where every department is too big to be allowed to fail. Yeah, we have all these people working in government that do important things, and for some reason or other we just can't get rid of them. It's dreadful, isn't it? Now, David's entitled to come out with tosh like this because he gets paid for it, and nobody that he mixes in will ever point out to him what tosh it is, or indeed stop his paycheck. Maybe they should. But of course, if one thinks about what has happened over the last few years in terms of, I don't know, almost any sector of government, because we have had, 15 years of austerity, what's happened exactly is that whenever we've taken things away from civil servants, drum roll, they've become a lot worse. Think about how long it takes to get a passport. Yeah, why? Because those services were outsourced. Yes, because we would want them to act like the private sector. But of course, what David knows but can't actually manage to admit, even though theoretically I guess he's a journalist and is sort of somehow supposed to be familiar with what we might regard as the truth, of course, is that businesses will extract value and profit no matter what, okay? If a business can manage to make a profit without doing anything, it will do so. That's what businesses do. If you want to provide a service, don't make it a business. Unless, of course, it's actually got some form of competition, which, of course, won't happen in that particular thing. we will maybe come on this weekend to what Elon Musk is going to run up against in many, many different ways. Just on that one, you can get rid of all these people if you want, but if you want anything to actually happen, might not be such a good idea. I mean, the classic one would perhaps be the probation service. Remember? Oh, yeah, let's privatise that, because after all those civil servants are just going to be bleeding useless. We need to put that, make it run like a business. And they did. And it didn't work at all whatsoever, which left us with enormously large numbers of people, for example, with mental health illnesses, roaming the streets, killing people randomly. But obviously, that's got nothing to do with political dogma whatsoever. Moving on to political dogma, of course, we arrive at Robert Jenrick. Yes, that famous self-made man that he is. And somebody who's very much sitting in the wings waiting, because there's nothing like the Conservatives really enjoy other than recycling their leadership candidates, because Kemi appears to want very much to be completely useless as a leader, other than suggesting people shouldn't eat sandwiches. Burning issue of the day, isn't it, that one? Yeah, that's what people are talking about on the Clapham omnibus. Yes. I'm not quite sure you still get omnibuses in Clapham. I think they're more just regular buses, but you get the concept. Anyway, he again in the Telegraph put this up, which is astounding. You can find. I'm not even going to put links for these. You can just go on the Telegraph site. Neoconservatism is dead. Good riddance. A quarter of a century of failed foreign interventions have made the world a much more dangerous place. Yes, and it's one of those articles where he actually manages to completely forget that he was part of a government for 15 years, that very often indulged in awful overseas actions, something that he did actually vote for, but we'll come on to that in just a second. So in this article, he actually manages to come up with the term the elites, which apparently only applies to the Blair government and what they did in and around Iraq, because obviously there was nothing like that Libya that happened under David Cameron or anyone else. Anyway, apparently, having spent a very long period of time in a Conservative Party that were very, very, very keen on overseas actions to get rid of bad people, it now transpires we shouldn't get involved in overseas actions to get rid of bad people, unless, as he points out, we should get involved in overseas actions to get rid of bad people who are in Syria, because he has consistently, and his voting record, actually done that. I don't know about this. It's just very odd. It's a very odd piece in its own right, whereby it patently wants to both have its cake and eat it multiple times and then vomit it out at the rest of us. Just very strange stuff. Anyway, yeah, there's the three of them. Astounding stuff. I don't know, I just find myself in this, as I think most of you do, just wondering what on earth is going on with the British media. When will we get some semblance of a media that actually operates on a sensible level and can actually have, oh dear God, a sensible discussion, for example, around the death of a child? No. We'll just score mealy-mouthed, racist little points against people we don't like. People like me that actually do a job. Yes, compared to, I don't know, what does Robert Jenrick do? Does anybody know? I don't know. Sits and waits, meets friends in the States, is a friend of Israel, which affects his notions of foreign policy. Or Alison, what does she do other than sitting in her slippers pretending to be very, very concerned about the fallen war dead? Or indeed David Frost, who just is the walking epitome of the stupidity of ideology. Anyway, do have a gorgeous Saturday. Do lie around in bed if you can do. That's going to be my tip. And if you can get those little jobs done, do that as well, because that way you get both, and you feel good about the fact that you have sat in bed. Snuggle. Enjoy.